And they quoted Kim as saying, I did not have authority to deny those because the parents knew what was best for their kids. So if Kim were superintendent,
that's not true.
She would be granting Rolex watches.
It's not true. I would not grant Rolex watches.
And welcome back to Square Off. Half of a Republican primary debate between school superintendent Tom Horne and his challenger, state treasurer Kimberly Yee, was consumed by a sometimes nasty back and forth over the state school voucher program. But does it strike anybody as absurd that Arizona's top education official, a politician, is the Rolex cop in charge of policing $1 billion in spending by parents? Is that really a job for a politician? Joining us with their ideas for who should police voucher spending are Christine Jones, attorney and former Republican candidate for governor, and Democratic consultant Adam Kinsey of Uplift Campaigns. Welcome back to Square Off.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
You can see I'm a little passionate about this. I think I've watched too many debates this week. But seriously, I do want to point out that Kimberly Yee said Tom Horne was lying about her record on the Rolex. Go back a year to Kimberly Yee's campaign announcement where she did say, parents know best, period. So that's something she'll have to deal with at some point again. The Auditor General's report this past week makes clear the program is a mess. There's some serious problems with the way this program is managed. I'll start with you, Christine. Does it make sense? I know it's created by politicians, but does it make sense for a politician to be overseeing this program? No matter what you think of it, whether you like it or not, does it make sense for a politician to be overseeing this program and not a professional?
So I think it's too simple or oversimplified to bifurcate just, is it a politician or not a politician? School choice lives in the Department of Education. Arizona is sort of the first to the game and the best at it. All of that should be protected by the Department of Education. And look, if people are applying for alternative funding for their students, and by the way, she wasn't wrong about parents. Parents are the first and best teachers. You were for your kids,
well,
and so are most. But should the politician be the one that's actually authorizing and auditing it? Probably not, because best practice in any money distribution system would be to have one person distribute and another person check. And the department right now is totally overwhelmed with the number of transactions. They don't have a good fraud detection system. And frankly, it would be well within Tom Horne's rights, and it would serve him well as a candidate to push that out to somebody else who could do it better.
And interestingly, the leader of the ESA program, an auditor himself who worked for the Auditor General's office, was cited for ignoring apparent conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
The Auditor General's office, who, by the way, is controlled by the majority, the Republicans. I think Kimberly Yee is in a very difficult position here, because if she actually does anything, and if she, demonstrates some leadership and talks about oversight of the ESAs, she loses the base that she is courting, this far-right, pro-voucher at any cost sort of base. So she can't try to inject herself, even if she wanted to. But I think the bigger problem here is that I don't really think it matters a whole hell of a lot who oversees a program that is so ripe for waste, fraud, and abuse like this program is. The Auditor General or any other independent organizations that have done a lot of research on this have proven time and again this is a billion-dollar boondoggle, and it's frankly why we need the Protect Education Act, because I don't really know that it matters who oversees this, because there's always going to be so much waste, fraud, and abuse with the voucher scheme the way it is currently written.
What strikes me as so interesting, again, watching too many debates, is this job has now fundamentally changed. The job of superintendent of public instruction. Right. We used to say, well, it's really just a bully pulpit, can't do very much other than distribute federal funding that comes in, and there's probably less federal funding these days. But as of 2022, when the voucher program went universal, this job has changed.
Very much so. And I have to say, your colleague, Craig Harris, has done some excellent work on this. When he first started looking at this, Craig, there were maybe, just a tiny little handful of erroneous entries, and now he's finding many, many, many. So the job has fundamentally changed. And again, it's not a criticism of the superintendent. Tom Horne has been a fine superintendent. It's just that it's too massive of a bucket of money. And by the way, it's not $1 billion boondoggle. I beg to differ with you on that. But there are some transactions that should never have happened, and they should be reversed, and that is for an auditor type role.
All right, let's move on to, President Trump. Maybe doing his best to really put Republicans in a bad position in the midterms. He told a White House gaggle that that he's not thinking even a little bit about Americans' financial situation when he's working on a deal to end the war with Iran. $6 a gallon gas, producer prices going way up, vegetables, fruit way up, meat way up. Adam, he seems to be giving Democrats all the information they need for attack it.
Well, get ready for 5 months of that soundbite in every single ad for the general election, followed by, and what did my Republican opponent say? And the sound of crickets. Even people like Juan Ciscomani, who don't have a primary at all and should absolutely be able to distance themselves on this egregious statement, refusing to. And I understand the Warren Petersons of the world and the folks that are locked in, primaries in the Republican Party right now. The primary is a race to the right. So I understand not wanting to upset the few people who still agree with the president on absolutely everything, because they're all voting in the Republican primary. But when it comes time to the general election, the bill's going to come due. And these guys that are silent now are really going to see a massive wave engulf them.
Is the president harming his own party?
He could be, and I think Adam is right about these ads writing themselves. The thing is, two things can be true. We have to take a strong position on Iran not getting a nuclear weapon. I think most people now have come to agree with that sentiment. But also $5 a gallon gas is really harmful for families. So those things have to somehow figure out how to peacefully coexist. Produce more energy here, do all of the things to relieve those pressures and tensions on families and their budgets. But on the other hand, you guys are kind of writing the role of the ads for us too, because exactly what you wanted to happen, more taxation, more regulation, more restraints on energy production, naturally increases the price. So both sides are going to have to deal with this. And you can roll your eyes, but you know that that's true. That what you guys do actually raises the price of energy as well.
I shouldn't roll my eyes. I apologize. That is a very good effort. But I think public opinion is going to say overwhelmingly they understand that the cause of higher gas prices is this needless war in Iran. I think that's just public opinion will absolutely decide that.
For sure. And like I say, that's why two things have to be true at the same time. Yep. Yeah, unfortunately. So, Mr. Trump, let's fix that.
Sticking with President Trump, he's found
Keep it up, buddy.
Sticking with President Trump, he's found a new job for Kari Lake, former Phoenix newscaster, failed candidate for governor in the U.S. Senate, and failed leader of the Voice of America. That's according to a federal judge. Lake will be the new U.S. ambassador to Jamaica, pending Senate confirmation. Adam, is this a one-way ticket from Trump to get Lake out of
Absolutely
DC?
not. Absolutely not. This is a springboard for, I hope, a United States Senate run back here in Arizona, if not governor. Maybe a really hotly contested congressional. I think this is going to be just the thing to revive Kari Lake's career back here in Arizona. And I, for one, it won't be a large check, Ms. Lake, but I'll write the first check.
So Adam thinks there is a third act for Kari Lake in Arizona.
God, I hope so.
Do you think so?
I mean,
is she done?
If we can get past the dripping sarcasm here, I think both parties and both administrations reward their loyalists. That's what's going on here. I mean, going and sitting on the beach in Jamaica for a few years sounds kind of nice, but Republicans in Arizona, I think, understand politics is about winning elections, and we have not been successful with that candidate. So I think this is probably the beginning of sort of the escorting out of the name on a ballot.
Those of us that mocked her her vacuuming the red carpet, we were the dumb ones because she got a great gig out of it.
Exactly right.
Got to end it there.
I will.
Christine Jones, Adam Kinsey, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Fran.
That's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. See you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.